Okay, so today I thought we would do a video on luck and how you obtain it, what it does, what it affects, and why you want it or don't want it in some situations maybe. And We'll just go over all that. I apologize if I sound a little stuffy. I'm getting over the flu, so you'll just have to bear with me on that. All right, here we go. This first image is from UO.com and on their luck page, and it just describes where you can get luck from, right? So I'll just read it top down. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the best place to get it. You can get it on there's a 10th anniversary sculpture that you can click that'll give you a bonus for luck for an hour. It's okay. It's nothing special. You can't count on it, so you can't really farm with it. But it's not bad to have it if you need it. And there's other things that count as a 10th anniversary sculpture than a 10th anniversary sculpture. There's been a few event items that have come out that also count as an anniversary sculpture for luck. The most current event has a green brazier or something like that. And if you double click that, it'll do the same thing that a 10th anniversary sculpture does. If you have Bushido, you can honor a target and it will give you a stacking luck bonus as your perfection stacks up. And at maximum stacks, it gives you 1,000 luck bonus. Dungeon chests and Kowloon puzzle chests, I guess, just have random between 0 and 240 luck applied. A big one that people often overlook is that loot generated in Feluca has a 1,000 point luck bonus applied to it. So that's a solid way to bump your luck and get 1,000 luck that you can't get otherwise. If you can do if what you're trying to farm can be farmed in Feluca. And then there's something about saltpeter. I don't know why luck affects saltpeter. And there's a buff that the Sphinx can give you, and it's a bunch of random stuff, but it can also be luck, right? So that's the places that you can get luck bonuses from. But the majority of your luck, your static luck, is just going to come from your suit. There's a bunch of artifacts that have it. There's a bunch you can craft gear. Crafted gear can have up to 190 luck on it, and in some slots, that's the best you can get. And in other slots, there are artifacts that have more than 190 luck. All right, so at some point, you may ask yourself as you're building a suit, well, do I need to build a functional suit that has luck on it to be able to, still be able to kill the monsters that I need to kill and have the luck on at the same time? Or instead, do I need to just have the most luck I can get on a suit, even if it's not a functional suit? And the answer to that is it depends. So if you're soloing, you have to be able to completely kill whatever it is you're trying to kill. And that might mean you need a functional suit. Because let's say you're killing a relatively hard boss and you get it almost all the way dead, and then you switch to a non-functional suit, you may not be able to finish the boss off. So you may need a functional luck suit in those situations to be able to kill the boss. If you're doing it in a group, or it's a very easy boss and you don't really need a functional luck suit, you're better off going for as much luck as you can get and just switching to the luck suit right before the thing dies. Because the luck is going to be applied at the point of item generation, like when the items are generated. And I guess we'll talk about that next. Okay, so this next page is also from yo.com's luck page, and it is like when the item is generated or how luck is chosen. So for treasure chest and SOS chest, the luck is generated from the individual who is recovering the chest at the time the chest is created, which for treasure hunting is when they begin the digging process successfully, right? For the vast majority of things, you're going to be dealing with just randomly generated monster loot, and it is generated at the time that the monster dies. Okay, so let's say you've got multiple people who are attacking the boss. Which one's luck is applied to the loot that's generated? Or is the luck applied for each individual person's loot table, right? So this is, we'll talk specifically first about just the random items that are generated, like the items that are on the spawn on the boss's corpse, or any monster's corpse, really, for that matter. So it's pretty obvious if you have one person attacking it, your chance to get lucky, and it's a binary chance, you either get lucky or you do not get lucky, is determined when the boss dies, and it's based on the luck of the person who killed the boss, if it's a single person, right? So I'll switch pages real quick to a UO guide page here. Okay, so now we're on UO guides page for luck, and it's a nice page. Like, there's a lot of useful information on here, but for now we're just going to look at the luck chance calculator. So you can input your current amount of luck on here and see what your percentage chance to get lucky is on any, the chance to roll lucky on a boss that you kill. And you can see you get diminishing returns as you go upwards, but there is a soft cap, and you'll see that I hit it here. It's not 3,000, but if you go up to 4,000, all of a sudden you have a 100% chance, and you can just use the backwards calculator for luck chance below and put in 100 to see what the soft cap actually is. And that is, so I'll do that now. It's 100, and then the soft cap is 3,982 luck. So there's really no point in going above 3,982 luck if you can get there. All right, so now back to the page here on what happens when multiple people getting loot on a corpse. All right, so again, if you're solo, it's just a binary roll, and your percentage chance luck that you have on the UO guide page is the chance that the loot on the corpse, that you get lucky and the loot is generated in a lucky state. If there are multiple people that have loot rights, though, it changes up a little bit. So as best information that I can get is on this UO guide page, or on the UO.com page here, and it says that it is basically, if you earn loot rights on the corpse, in other words, like, you do damage to the boss, and then as soon as it dies, you can loot the corpse. That means you earned loot rights on it. It takes a list of all of those people, and what determines if you get loot rights on a corpse is how much damage you deal to the boss, how much damage you take from the boss, and how much healing you do to other players who are engaged with the boss. Right? So it's a combination of those three things that determine if you get loot rights. But provided you do get loot rights on the boss, you are eligible to get loot off the boss. Then your luck is considered as one of the candidates to determine whose luck gets calculated for that whole boss's loot table. So if say you're an underwater boss and there's 20 people there, and all 20 people get loot rights, and you got some people wearing a lot of luck, some people wearing a little bit of luck, some people wearing no luck, it's going to just take a random person who got loot rights on that corpse, and it's going to use their luck to determine if the boss gets, if all the loot generated on the boss, not just the loot generated for you as an individual, but for each and every single person's own loot tables, are all generated from that one person's luck. So if it just happened to pick somebody who was wearing 0 luck, you had 0 chance for the corpse to get the lucky roll, and so you won't get the benefits of having the improved loot that luck brings, which we'll talk about in a minute. You're really rolling the dice when there's a lot of people there. The only way you can guarantee or improve your odds of lucky rolls is if you're going to be doing this with multiple people, is for everyone to be running as much luck as they can run, and that will tend to result in more corpses having lucky rolls on them. Okay, and then we'll talk a little bit about the rest of the stuff on this list, which is dredging hooks. The luck is calculated from the guy who uses the hook. I don't really know much about saltpeter mining or why it matters. For quest rewards, it's the person who completed the quest. If you're begging, it's the person doing the begging. And for artifact drops, right? So like, let's say you're killing a boss to try to get artifacts off of it. Those are improved by luck, but that is individually calculated for every person who's wearing luck. So same example I was using before, for underwater, if there are 20 people there and all 20 people get loot rights on the boss, each one of those people has a chance to get an artifact off of that boss, and their own luck is calculated to determine whether or not they get the bonus chance to get the artifact. It's not one person for the whole corpse like it is for the loot that's generated on the corpse. It's individually, since those items appear in your bag. Okay, so now we'll talk about which systems are affected by luck, and this is also off the UO.com luck page. So treasure chest loot is affected by luck. You either get lucky or you don't, and it improves the luck on the treasure chest. Same for SOS chest. Again, monster loot we've talked about, it affects that. Dredging hooks, I don't know why saltpeter matters. Quest rewards, trick-or-treat begging, and artifact drops. This is the one that really has the variance in it, right? So it lists 3 things: Shadow Guard, so it's roof, Ilshnar Paragons, and Halloween Treasures of events, like the dynamic events that they've been releasing. It improves the drop rate of those points, like the items you turn in for points. But it doesn't list everything there that is affected by luck, and it certainly doesn't list all the stuff that isn't affected by luck either. So we're not getting like a full list of either the stuff it does affect or some stuff that it doesn't affect. And there's a lot of trial and error that you'd have to do with a lot of repetition to really figure out everything in the game that luck would be affected by. So you're gonna have to make some educated guesses here, and just you might have to say like, well, this is similar to that, so maybe it works that same way. But there's a little speculation in this, so take this with a I guess if you believe that I've done a decent job of like compiling stuff together, and I've done enough content to have a general understanding of this, then you can take my word for it. But you should really test everything. If you want to be sure, you need to do the test on your own. That being said, I can say that underwater, the artifacts that drop from underwater, which are terrible, are affected by luck. If you wear luck in underwater, you're going to get a ton of artifacts. You're going to get a ton of terrible artifacts, but you're going to get them. And if you don't wear luck, you'll still get some occasionally. It's not like the drop rate's bad, but it's not nearly the rate at which you get it when you are wearing luck. Same thing for like Medusa, for example. Medusa has a loot table that drops a lot of really terrible artifacts. And you'll get a bunch more of them if you're wearing luck than if you're not. That being said, Medusa drops a talisman called Slither that isn't terrible. It's okay, but it specifically is not affected by luck. And if you go kill Medusa enough, you'll see that the message that it gives you when it drops a Slither is different than the journal message that it gives you when it drops the other artifacts. And it's because they're treated differently for some reason. And the Slither one is not affected by luck, but the other artifacts are. Why the discrepancy? Couldn't tell you. Don't know. But I only know that because I've done it a lot. Doom, I haven't done enough testing to say for sure whether Doom is affected by luck, but I can tell you that it has a bad luck protection system, and that's the nomenclature there is a little confusing. When I say bad luck protection, I don't mean luck as in the system in the game. I mean luck in the general sense, right? So like luck, what we're talking about in this video, is not what I mean when I say bad luck protection. Doom's bad luck protection is, just every time you fail to get an artifact from a boss, your chance to get one on the next boss goes up until you get an artifact, and then it resets back down to the base level. The I don't think luck actually, like the stat in the game, applies to Doom loot because of this bad luck protection system that's involved in Doom. But I might be wrong because I don't do Doom a lot, so that needs some testing. And you'll just have to go through and like look at all this different, the different things, the different content in the game, and kind of make some comparisons. Like, is this similar to Shadow Guard, or Underwater? Right? Like, I could probably make an assumption that Scalus, for example, or Korgel, since they're similar to Roof and Underwater, probably their artifacts are affected by luck. But maybe there are some exceptions in there that I just don't know about because I don't do that content very often, right? So you just kind of have to take an individual approach on that and do a lot of it to figure out whether or not, you'll be able to tell a drastic difference if you're wearing like 0 luck versus a max luck suit. If you're doing it consistently and you're wearing the luck, you're going to notice a lot more artifact drops if luck is applicable. Okay, so now we're into the heart of the problem here. Why does it matter, right? So obviously, if you get a lucky roll and you get an art and you're looking to get artifacts off of a boss, the stuff that appears in your bag, like named artifacts, then that part is sufficiently explained. You get a better chance for a lot of that stuff if you get lucky rolls. But that isn't, in my view, the main reason you run luck. The reason that luck is so good, in my view, is because of what it does to the randomly generated loot on the corpses. So first you have to understand a little bit about like item intensity, and item spawn numbers on a corpse. So let's say you go kill an Earth Elemental in Shame. It's going to drop, I don't know, a few items, not very many, and they're going to not have great intensity. They're going to have maybe 1, 2, 3 properties on them or something like that. And at the end of the day, there might be some uses for loot like that, but they're not going to be considered like end game, very powerful items in most situations. And in order to get really powerful loot, you need to have loot that has a lot of mods on it. It has to have a lot of different, say you're talking about a piece of jewelry, a ring or a bracelet. You're gonna want it to have some plus skill on it. Probably some enhanced potions, swing speed, hit chance, defense chance, damage increase, stuff like that, right? And the more of that stuff it has, the better that piece is going to be, right? So the highest number of mods you can get on an item, currently anyway. There's some old items that have more than this, legacy items, but they don't drop like that anymore. So the most you can get on an item now is something with 8 mods. And many times you are looking for, not always, but many times you're looking for something that has 8 mods on it, especially for jewelry and armor. And you want those 8 mods to be rolled well as well, right? Like, so you want to have, rather than it rolling +5 skill or +10 skill, you'd like it to roll +15 or maybe +20 skill, right? You want it to be on the higher end of the potential rolls that are possible. So you want 8 rolls, and you want preferably those to be on the high end of those rolls. And luck improves those things, right? So we'll start from the top of the page that I'm displaying now, which is So this page comes from Yo Guide's luck page, and it talks about what happens when you get a lucky roll. So the first thing that happens is it increases the number of items by 1 on the corpse. But it's important to note here that it increases the number of items by 1 for each person that gets loot rights. So let's say you're doing underwater, like the same example we did before, and 20 people get loot on that boss, and it got a lucky roll. Like whoever's luck it picked somebody that had high luck, and it happened to roll lucky, and you got a lucky roll. That boss's corpse is going to have +1 item for every person that got loot rights, so plus 20 total items. And at the end of the day, this is probably the least important part of it rolling lucky, but it's nice. Greater quantity of items means greater chances to get good ones, and so getting an extra one when you get lucky is not a bad thing, right? You should note here that for all of this stuff, the luck roll can't exceed the maximums. So for number of items on a corpse, each individual loot table that's generated for each player can only have some maximum number of items on it, right? Like it depends on if you're killing an earth elemental in shame, that maximum number of items is low. Maybe, I'm guessing, but call it 3 or 4 or something like that. But for a boss like underwater or Shadow Guard, a roof boss, maybe that is a very large number. Maybe it's 10, 15, maybe it's 20. I think roof bosses can drop like 30 some odd items, right? So like the maximum number of items that can drop on that corpse, there is some set maximum, and that maximum number can't be exceeded. So if the +1 that you get from getting a lucky roll were to try to exceed that cap, it won't. It'll just be whatever the maximum number is. But if you were short that number for you just got unlucky and you didn't roll the maximum number of items that were going to drop on the corpse, then the luck will increase it by 1. So not a bad thing. Item properties. Let's say you killed roof boss, and there are 30 items on that corpse. For you look on the corpse right when it drops. I'm not talking about the public loot phase when there's, say, multiple people earn loot rights on a boss or something like that, and it's been there for 2 minutes, and then all the items appear on it. There might be hundreds of items on there depending on how many people earn loot rights. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the boss just died, and it's your own individual loot table on the boss. It's just your loot. So let's say you're looking at your loot, and there are items on there, and let's say you didn't get lucky, and say there are items that had 7 mods on them, jewels and things like that had 7 mods on them. If you had gotten lucky, those jewels would not have 7 mods on them. They'll have 8 mods, and that might make that jewel, it might change that jewel from unusable to very valuable, right? Like that extra mod can mean the difference between something being worthless and worth a lot. There's RNG there. Obviously, the mods on jewels have to make sense, and I might make a video that kind of goes in tandem with this eventually. But a video about what items are good, like what combinations on items are good or desirable, I should say. But anyway, the point is that going from some lower number of mods up to the cap, to the maximum, because you got a +1 from a lucky roll, can make items that were not very good excellent. And that's one of the big benefits of running luck, is this interaction where you get an extra item property if you get lucky. Again, it can't exceed the cap of 8 though, right? So if the cap is 8, if it was a natural 8 module without luck, it's not like it'll have 9 on it if you got a lucky roll. It'll just be 8. Okay, and then the last thing is item property intensities. So that's the weight of the individual mods on the piece of armor or jewel or whatever. So if you uh, if you get a lucky roll, it bumps that weight by an increment. So uh, the different uh, properties have different increments, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But if you get lucky, it bumps it by one. So, for example, let's say you're at, let's say you got a jewel to drop, and it had plus 15 magery on it. That's the way it dropped naturally, no lucky roll. If you had gotten a lucky roll on it, that plus 15 magery would instead be plus 20 magery. Or let's say it was going to be a plus 10, but it rolled lucky, it'll bump it up to a plus 15, right? So the the plus skill increment is in 5 skill increments. So it just bumps it by 5 skill because that is the increment. Now let's say we're talking about um, mana regen on a weapon. Mana regen on a weapon can roll 3, 6, or 9 from random loot. And so its increment is 3, right? So if it was going to roll a natural 9 and you got lucky, it would just still be 9 because it can't go over the cap. But if it was going to roll a natural 6 and you got lucky, it would bump it up to 9 because it bumps it by 1 increment or 3 mana regen. Okay, so let's talk about some exceptions maybe to like why you might not want luck or some outlier situations, right? Okay, so first, I'll just say I would encourage you not to think about things as like you know, there's one best way to do to get loot, right? Um, yes, roof and underwater and other bosses have very high intensity loot, which is going to lead to more 8 mod loots and things like that. But there are some circumstances where that may not be desirable uh, or optimal, right? Okay, so let's talk about desirable first. In this situation, on this butcher's knife, you'll see that it's a prized item, right? And the way that there are negative penalties that can be applied to items as they get generated, right? There are some of them that are just like completely brick an item, for example. Cursed is one of those things, right? Cursed, you just can't insure the item, so it's just not, unless you're playing Siege, then a cursed item is pretty worthless because you're going to lose it when you die. On rings and bracelets, for example, antique is not that big of a deal because that's just common. That's just what you have to get a high mod jewel. Armor, though, for example, antique would just, most people won't wear a piece of antique armor just because it would have to be extremely exceptional before someone would even consider it, just because it's going to break too quickly and you're going to be repairing it all the time. And there's a lot of good brittle armor that's just as good. But for weapons specifically, you run into this situation where the splintering property on weapons is very good in PvP, and just because of the way the game works out, a lot of the PvM weapons in the game tend to be imbued, so you're rarely ever using a weapon that drops from a monster to fight other monsters. Almost exclusively, the weapon drops get relegated to the realm of PvP, and almost exclusively those weapons need to have splintering weapon on them to be worth anything. And splintering weapon just chunks the durability. Every time it procs, it removes 10 durability from the weapon. And so if you're dealing with an antique or a brittle weapon, those cannot be powder fortified to bring their max durability back up over time. So that means that you're going to break them very quickly. They're going to go down to near zero durability. You're going to repair them, and then you're going to do that. You go out for one fight, and all of a sudden you have to repair your weapon. You go out for another fight, you got to repair your weapon, and pretty soon your maximum durability on that weapon is way below what it started at, and all of a sudden it's not even very useful anymore because you can't even get a whole fight out of it before it's back down at zero durability. And so a brittle or antique weapon that can't be brought back up to 255 maximum durability using powder or fortification loses a lot of value. So that means you got to have a clean weapon. And that could be clean as in it doesn't have any negative modifier on it at all. Or it could be clean as in it has prized, or it has a strength requirement of 125 as another negative penalty that it can have on it that will allow you to still powder fortify it. Or it could have a weight of 50 stones, and weight of 50 stones and strength requirement of 125 are not great, right? But they're still potentially usable. Prized just makes the insurance cost a little more, and since gold is so inflated in the game, it is effectively a it's supposed to be a negative mod, but it effectively is not. And then it can just roll with no negative mod at all. It's actually really clean. And in the situation of prized and no negative mod, those are the most desirable of the two, and you can powder fortify those forever. You can use that weapon forever, right? But the trick here is that the higher the imbue weight is on an item, or the more I said imbue like you were going to imbue the item, but let's just the property weight. It has a lot of properties on it, near 8, or it has very high intensity properties, or some combination of those things. The higher that is, the more properties, the higher the weight, the larger the chance is that weapon comes back cursed, brittle, antique, stuff like that. And that, for a splinter weapon, effectively bricks the weapon. So in certain situations, you may be looking to not have as high intensity, not as many properties, not as high intensity on those properties, because you don't want to put it in the territory of, if you're farming specifically for weapons, you don't maybe want to put it in the territory of getting that cursed mod, that antique mod, that brittle mod. And that you're going to have to balance the luck alongside the monster that you're farming too, because different monsters have, the examples we used earlier, an earth elemental has very low properties and in general intensity that it drops on those for those properties. And so if you ran max luck on earth elementals, you're still going to see plenty of stuff that is clean or prized. You're not going to push it into the realm of antique and cursed and stuff like that. But if you're doing, say, roof or underwater, that stuff is so high intensity naturally that it already is going to be rolling stuff like cursed, brittle, antique pretty frequently, right? So if you're farming some sort of middle ground monster that has pretty high intensity stuff, but maybe not max intensity, then you may run into a situation where you want no luck. You could also run into some situations where the item that you're looking for, you're specifically not looking for high intensity items because you want them to be clean, like this clean bracelet that I'm showing you. Sometimes you want a jewel to only have one or a couple of properties on it that are desirable, because you want that jewel not to be antique, so that you can imbue it. That way you don't have to deal with it continually decreasing in quality, right? It makes it easier to farm because you're not always having to repair the thing, right? So in situations like that, sometimes it's better to run no luck because you're trying to get fewer properties, not more. Right? So just be aware of what you're farming and what you're trying to accomplish, and then use your knowledge of luck to try to game the system to get the best outcome that you can get. Okay, that's going to be the end of this video. If you have any questions or anything, just leave a comment. And if you want to see the video about like what items are desirable, especially for PvP, because that's what I know more about than anything else, then uh, feel free to leave a comment and ask for that as well. And I'll see you on the next video.